Hi, we're the Fine Brothers.
Consider yourselves warned.
Grab your lightsabers and use the Force.
We're about to spoil the entire Star Wars saga by starting as it should be with Episode 4, A New Hope.
You'll be all caught up for when Star Wars The Force Awakens hits theaters on December 18th after watching this recap in one take in under 6 minutes.
Starting now.
The saga begins in Episode 4 with a civil war between the good guy Rebel Alliance and the bad guy Galactic Empire.
So far, the Alliance is up after stealing the Death Star plans,
which will be explained in the upcoming Rogue One movie.
One of the leaders of the Galactic Empire, Darth Vader,
who wears a mask but he's like a subway train and has the voice of James Earl Jones,
is pissed and captures a princess named Leia whose hair looks like it was sponsored by Cinnabon.
She gives the droid R2-D2 a message saying, "Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope." And then the other droid, C-3PO, head to Tatooine.
They're eventually bought by a farm boy named Luke Skywalker and his Uncle Owen.
Following the droids, Luke is attacked by sand people but is saved by Obi-Wan, who turns out to be a Jedi.
Wait, what's a Jedi?
Well, a Jedi is a guardian of peace and justice who follow the light side of the Force, who were either all killed off or in hiding due to events of the past.
And wait, what's the Force?
It's a metaphysical power that allows you to do cool stuff like move things with your mind and influence others' thoughts.
Everybody got that? Good!
Obi-Wan tells Luke his father was a Jedi and gives him his father's lightsaber.
The weapon of choice for the Jedi.
He says he was killed by Darth Vader.
Vader is part of the Sith who followed the dark side of the Force.
After finding out the Empire will be looking for the droids, he runs back home to find his aunt and uncle killed by stormtroopers.
Luke then decides to join Obi-Wan to save Leia.
They need a ship, so they go to a cantina.
With a little help from Obi-Wan's Jedi mind tricks.
And hire future archaeologist bad boy Han Solo and his Wookiee Chewbacca to help them get to the planet Alderaan.
Which they do in style with every Star Wars fan's favorite ship, the Millennium Falcon.
However, when they arrive, they find only debris.
And learn that Alderaan got blown up by the Death Star.
An entire planet killed in one shot.
They get sucked into the Death Star by a tractor beam and go undercover as stormtroopers and free Leia, who's on board.
Before they can get back to the ship, Obi-Wan duels it out with Vader.
It's Obi-Wan versus Vader.
And Vader takes him out! Pretty easily.
R.I.P. Obi-Wan.
Luke is pissed, but they leave for more space battles.
After receiving his reward for helping out, Han leaves and the Rebel Alliance plans its attack against Death Star.
Leia leads the way for the Rebels' plan and Luke decides to join in and fly in an X-Wing.
The Rebel Alliance begins its attack on it and Vader comes out to fight in a TIE Interceptor.
It's not looking too good for the Rebels until Han appears and evens the odds.
Luke in his X-Wing channels the Force and with the help of Obi-Wan's voice shoots a torpedo at the Death Star's reactor, destroying it.
Victory.
It's time for the sequel, The Empire Strikes Back, our personal favorite.
The Rebel base has moved to the snowy planet of Hoth.
And Vader continues to search for Luke, who he has sensed is a Jedi.
On patrol, Luke gets caught in a blizzard and passes out.
But not before seeing a vision of Obi-Wan telling him to go to Dagobah to train under Yoda, a powerful Jedi.
Han finds Luke and cutting open his recently frozen to death Tauntaun places Luke inside for warmth.
Meat blanket.
They are finally saved and as Luke recovers, Leia urges Han to stay and help.
Han thinks Leia's got the hots for him and she responds by smooching Luke.
Vader eventually figures out the Rebel base has moved to Hoth.
Time to evacuate!
Vader's troops drop AT-STs and the monstrous AT-ATs in order to destroy the base.
How do you defeat giant four-legged killing machines?
You trip them, of course.
So the Empire eventually destroys the Rebel base, some rebels escape and Luke and R2 hop in an X-Wing and depart for Dagobah.
As for the others, they get out on the Millennium Falcon, but its hyperdrive is broken, so they dock on an asteroid.
Leia and Han start getting schmoozy with each other and share a kiss.
On Dagobah, Luke encounters Yoda.
And no matter what others say, he looks the best like this and not when he is CGI.
And after pretending not to be Yoda, finally reveals himself and he begins a strenuous Jedi workout routine with Luke.
Luke finds a cave where he has a vision of himself beheading Vader with a severed head, revealing his own face.
As for Vader, he has a transmission from his Sith master, the Emperor.
They discuss Luke and plan to sway him to the dark side or kill him.
To find the Millennium Falcon, Vader enlists bounty hunters, including Boba Fett.
Han and crew head to Cloud City for repairs where they are welcomed by his friend Lando Calrissian.
Unfortunately, Lando made a deal with the Empire to capture the rebels or his city would be destroyed.
Luke senses something wrong and he and R2 depart, although Yoda says he isn't ready to fight.
Turns out Vader is torturing Han and Leia in order for Luke to detect it with the Force.
Vader tests out his carbon freezing chamber on Han.
Leia tells him she loves him.
To which he responds, I know.
And Chewbacca roars as Han is frozen in carbonite.
Vader gives Boba Fett the Han sickle to deliver the Jabba the Hutt.
Who Han owes a debt to.
And Luke makes it to Cloud City to save his friends, but...
It's a trap!
It's Luke versus Vader!
Vader sliced off Luke's hand!
Then in one of the biggest shockers of cinema, Vader reveals to Luke,
I am your father.
Mind blown!
To escape, Luke tosses himself down a shaft.
He's saved by Lando and the Millennium Falcon and they escape the stormtroopers.
R2 fixes the hyperdrive and they flee.
It's time for Return to the Jedi!
The Empire has begun building a second Death Star.
And a prosthetic-headed Luke and company have arrived in Tatooine to save Han Solo.
C-3PO and R2 are made into Jabba's slaves, but Leia,
disguised as a bounty hunter,
arrives with Chewbacca as her prisoner and collects part of the bounty put on Han.
She releases Han, but they are captured by Jabba and his men.
Luke and his friends are captured and brought to Jabba for trial, and Leia gets forced to be Jabba's new side piece.
They're sentenced to get digested for 1,000 years by the giant Sarlacc monster in the desert.
Luke is forced to walk the plank, and gets real.
He uses the Force to grab his lightsaber and starts hacking away.
Han takes out Boba Fett, who falls into the Sarlacc's mouth, and Leia chokes out Jabba.
R.I.P. Jabba and Boba.
After escaping, Luke and R2 split up with the group and head back to Dagobah.
Meanwhile, in Death Star 2.0, the Emperor promises that they will turn Luke to the dark side.
On to Dagobah!
Luke finds the 900-year-old Yoda about to die, and Yoda reveals that Luke has a sibling.
R.I.P. Yoda.
On Luke's way out, Ghost Obi-Wan reveals that Vader used to be a good Jedi named Anakin, along with confirming that Luke had a twin sister.
He figures out that it's Leia?
Say what? What? But they kissed once! Ew!
The Rebel Alliance share their plans to destroying the Death Star 2.0.
They need to take out the Death Star shield generator located on the forest moon of Endor.
The Rebels team up with the planet's adorably dangerous inhabitants, the Ewoks, to stand against the Empire.
Luke decides it's time to face Dad and reveals to Leia that she's his sister and that Vader is their pops.
He meets with Vader to try to talk him out of the dark side to no avail, and he is taken to meet the Emperor.
The Emperor reveals that he set up the rebels.
It's a trap!
The rebel forces near the generator get taken prisoner while the rebel forces in space are attacked.
And then, the moment of truth.
Luke versus Vader! Again!
This time, Luke chops off Vader's hand.
Before Luke can kill him, he tosses away his lightsaber to not fall to the dark side.
The Emperor uses force landing on him. Who knew you could do that?
Vader has a change of heart and uses a move straight out of WWE and Gorilla Press slams the Emperor and throws him down a shaft to his death.
R.I.P. the Emperor.
Unfortunately, some lightning hits Vader in his vitals, mortally wounding him.
He takes off his mask to see his son for the last time.
R.I.P. Vader.
The gang manages to destroy the Death Star shield generator, and Lando flies the Millennium Falcon into the Death Star and destroys the main reactor.
R.I.P. Death Star 2.0.
The film ends with Luke and the company reunited.
They celebrate the huge rebel victory with the spirits of Obi-Wan, Yoda, and Anakin looking on.
Oh yeah, then they made those horrible prequels. But all you really need to know was Anakin was found as a boy, gets trained as a Jedi by Obi-Wan Kenobi, becomes psychotic after his mother is killed, yet somehow marries a queen named Padme who gives birth to Luke and Leia, who get separated at birth for their own protection, and there's a ton of fan service that really didn't make sense and brought us the worst character that we won't even dignify with mentioning, so you really never need to watch those films.
And now you're ready for Star Wars The Force Awakens.
Where is Luke now?
Will BB-8 be awesome or horribly annoying?
Can this movie be the first good Star Wars film in 3 decades? Please, J.J. Abrams!
Will you be watching Star Wars The Force Awakens?
We know we'll be!
Da 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 da.